repair all the damages and fix the city, and you'll be a lot better off. But they decided they wanted to keep their freedom. But there is a very poor country. Now, this is about 5 years ago. Maybe it's different now, but that was what I found at that time. And this man contacted me. His name was Drago. And Drago wanted me to come there, and he made arrangements to get my books translated into Bulgarian. And this was right at the time that the war was breaking out in Yugoslavia and Kosovo and all those countries. And I'm looking on the map again, trying to see where I'm supposed to go. And my son said, "Mom, you're not going to go over there. Look where they want you to go." Sofia is the capital where I was going, was just over the border from the fighting in Yugoslavia. I just thought about that. Isn't it an interesting comparison than what I just did? But he said, "You don't want to do it. It'll be dangerous." But I've always felt if someone asks me to come somewhere, there has to be a reason. And I feel I need to do it. I need to go. To me, it's an honor to be asked to go anywhere. And as I said, they have told me if I'm not supposed to go, I won't even be allowed to go out the front door. They said something will happen, and at the time you will think it's something bad, but it just meant that you weren't supposed to go. That Bulgarian trip turned out to be one of the most remarkable trips I've ever done. This shows you if you're afraid, if you let fear get in the way, you'll never do anything. Fear will hold you back. If there's something you're supposed to do, do it. Go ahead and do it. Enjoy life. Because you sit around waiting, feel safe, whatever is safe. You could get killed in your front room. You've heard of cars crashing through the window of some people's front room, and then what? People are too afraid to do anything, to follow their dream, to follow their mission, and nothing ever happens. And nothing happens to them as they stay home. So anyway, I have gone on these trips, even by being warned by my family, you shouldn't do it. Well, when I got to Bulgaria, it was one of the most fantastic receptions I've ever had. I got off that plane, and it was like a rock star getting off that plane. The entire airport was crowded with reporters and people, and Drago met me there, and he just said, "I have to warn you," he said, "everybody's here." And here was all these people, and it was just an avalanche, everybody taking pictures, wanting interviews, and talking to me. One of the first ones shoved a microphone in my face and said, "Well, what do you think of Bulgaria?" And I said, "Well, I just got here. I don't know anything about it yet." But they had set up press conferences that looked like the president's press conference, everybody wanting to know about my books and about my information. And then I had a meeting with all of these doctors and scientists. The whole room was full of them, and for 2 hours I answered questions. They had never heard of using hypnosis as past life therapy and the way I use it. They have never heard of doing that. It was totally new to them. And it was just, they told me one time, what you are speaking about, when I gave some lectures there, is against the law in this country, because we're only allowed to talk about what we are taught at the university. And this kind of material, metaphysics and hypnosis, past lives, reincarnation, is not taught in the universities. And it's not taught of how you can use hypnosis in this way. So they said, really what you're doing is against the law. And I said, well, will I get in trouble? They said, no, because you're a foreigner. But anyway, for 2 hours, these doctors and scientists questioned me. They had never heard of doing this, of getting therapy by going into past lives. It was totally new to them. And before I left that country, they gave me the highest award that can be given. And this association that brought me over was called the Association of Phenomena. And they give this award to someone in metaphysics every year in that country. And it had been like an underground type of society until they broke away from the communists, and now they were getting more open about it. But they really surprised me. Before I left, they gave me this, it was a statuette. It looks like it's made out of very heavy brass, and it is more or less like in the shape of a stylized flame, the way it twists. And they said I was the first American and the first foreigner outside of Bulgaria to ever receive this award. And it was given for the highest advancement in the research of psychic phenomena. And it still, to me, is just mind-blowing that they thought enough of what I was doing to give that award to me. And it was on TV over there. But the important thing was what happened as a result of my trip there. Now, while we were there, the Russian people were doing a documentary on my travels over there. Well, to go back to what I said before about past lives, in one of my past lives that I remembered, I was at the Library of Alexandria when it was burned. Many of you probably know the story of Alexandria and how all the books were destroyed in Alexandria. Well, in one of my past lives, I was there, and I was one of the keepers of the records. I couldn't read, but I kept the records, and I gave them to the scholars that could read. And I loved the knowledge, and the books were very precious to me, and I was there whenever the library was destroyed. And it was a horrible experience to see the books burn and to have knowledge be wiped away. So I was running out of the library in the past life as this man trying to carry as many scrolls as I could, and then I was run over by a chariot in the street and killed that way. And when I told this story at some of the panels, past life panels, they all said, well, why are you determined to rebuild, to rewrite the whole entire Alexandrian library? Because I've written so many books. Maybe that's what it is, because to me, knowledge is so important. I hate to see a book messed up or disfigured or, dog-eared or written in. Many people do make notes in them, but to me, books are so important and so precious. It's what I am trying to do, is rewrite the library, because my work does deal with lost knowledge and lost information. Anyway, they were going to do this documentary in a hotel in Sofia. Drago came to our hotel, and he said, "You're going to take me there." And he said, the woman who was making the documentary had a suggestion. She wanted me to do a past life regression for the documentary on film as a demonstration. And I said, well, I suppose it could be done. I just, you don't like surprises because you never have any idea what's going to come out whenever you do a past life regression. It could have been very boring, and it would have been a waste of their tape, but because this was so new to them, I guess they figured anything would be interesting. So Drago said he had a suggestion. He said, why didn't I do the sample session with him? Because he knew me, and we were, he could speak English very well, and it would be much easier. He'd be at ease too. So I said, all right, but I said they may think we have cooked up something in the meantime. But I thought, I would be willing to try it with him. So we get to the hotel with all the cameras are all set up and they're getting ready to go. And they had this beautiful young blonde girl with shorts. She came out, and the Russian woman said, this is the one we want you to do the session with. Of course, it would have made good camera, this beautiful young girl looking like a model with shorts. But I said, yes, but I have to have someone who can understand English. And she said, me speak English. But I didn't feel good about it. I felt it was just more for show than anything else. So I told her we had already decided that we were going to do the interview, the demonstration, the sample session with Drago. So she didn't like the idea much, but she agreed to it. So he lays down on the bed, and I do the session. That's where the big surprise came in. He went back to a life in Alexandria at the burning of the library. He was one of the scholars that would come into the library to read the books. And he was involved in numerology and astrology, a very wise man, and he was there whenever the destruction of the library also happened. And I'm sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, he is describing everything that I remembered from my own session. The description of the place, the description of everything in it, and all of it was just like we had been there at the same time, because everything was familiar. And it was blowing me away. I'm trying to ask questions and stay calm. And in his regression, he is trying to run out of the library also, carrying books, trying to save what books he could. And as he ran out, the building was collapsing, and a huge rafter fell on him, and it landed across his shoulders and pinned him to the floor and killed him. He told me later it was very emotional, the whole session, but because he knew there were cameras going and people watching, he couldn't get as emotional as he would have. But at least he was able to tell the story. Well, afterwards, when we were talking, we were going back to the hotel, I said, boy, do I have a story to tell you, because he didn't realize we'd both been there at the same time. But he told me the next morning, whenever he came to pick me up, he said, I'm almost afraid to say this, but he said, for many, many years, that he'd had pains all across the shoulder area of his back, and nothing he did could help that or help take it away. And after the session, he said it was gone. And he said, I'm almost afraid to say it because is it really gone or am I just imagining this? But after that, he didn't have any more trouble with it. But then I started telling him about that I was there too. I said, this is amazing. Now, for me, it seems that my mission is to get the knowledge back. But he is doing the same thing because he was bringing people with knowledge into his country, bringing people from other countries in and arranging to have their books published there. He's also replacing and regaining the knowledge without realizing it. So maybe that was the mission. But whenever we went to the plane and left, I just told him, well, it's nice to meet you again 800 years later and halfway around the world. So how in the world could these things happen?